Before we begin this episode, let's take a brief moment of silence for those that died this episode. Brienne's virginity, Rhaegal, Tormund and Gendry's heart, Missandei. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. The episode begins on our Lord of the Friend Zone, Ser Jorah Mormont, getting the first and only kiss he'll get from Daenerys Targaryen. But in this scene, we never get to see what Dany whispers into his ear, so lip readers out there, I need to hear from you. Sansa gives Theon his redemption by giving him a House Stark pin, and honestly, we need to ask ourselves if Theon is worthy of this redemption. He did some pretty despicable things to House Stark, including burning children and watching Sansa's rape. But on the other hand, he did stand up for House Stark and join them in the battle, eventually losing his life in the process. So do we like Mr. No Balls, or should we let him die redemptionless? And yes, redemptionless isn't a word. Jon says some last goodbyes, saying our last duty is to keep the dead ones alive in our memories, and our heroes burn the dead, paying homage to the sacrifice they made in protecting the realm from the Night King. Of particular note is Sam burning Edison and Arya burning Beric, both of whom sacrificed themselves in order so that they could survive. But the biggest side-eye of the evening belongs to Dany and Jon, who both have unsettled business on who will become the true king of the Seven Kingdoms. Gendry has a heartfelt conversation with the Hound, who believes Gendry has only one thing on his mind, but as Gendry makes his way to the front, he's given the title of Lord Gendry Baratheon of Storm Ends, being the last of the Baratheon line. This is a calculated move by Dany, who knows that Gendry will now be loyal to her. Dany knows that with the end of the White Walkers, the Game of Thrones is still on, and of course Davos is the first one to pledge his allegiance. Jaime pours some wine for Brienne, looking to get lucky, and let me say, it works out. We've been waiting seasons for this, people. Perhaps one of the most insightful comments of the episode takes place between Davos and Tyrion, in which Tyrion says we may have killed the White Walkers, but we still have us to contend with. It brings question to who the real evil is, the monsters or ourselves. Tyrion tells Bran he'll be Lord of Winterfell, and the most important part of this conversation is Bran telling him he shouldn't be because he mostly lives in the past. I think we'll come back to this in episodes to come, because there's more to Bran and the overall Game of Thrones narrative than we've been led on to believe. Then we get a whole bunch of toasts, including Tormund, who acts like a drunk bro, and the sexiest game of truth or dare between Jaime and Brienne. Tormund sticks up for Jon, calling him a tiny man who, even though he died and was resurrected, keeps fighting. This type of talk pisses off Dany, who's like, how can I compete against not only the rightful heir to the throne, but someone who is beloved amongst the people? Then the most important part of this whole episode. Brienne is a virgin?
Extra virgin.
Jaime goes after Brienne, leaving Tormund, whose unrequited love is noticed by Tyrion and Pod. But don't worry guys, Tormund will find a woman.
You can touch me. I'm not afraid of wild things.
Clegane, however, isn't too receptive of women, and that's due in large part that his character arc isn't complete. He still has to leave Winterfell and take on his brother in Clegane Bowl. When Sansa asks what will make him happy, he replies it's his own effing business. My guess is that there will be an epic battle between Clegane and the Mountain, likely resulting in his death, but a redemptive arc. And now for the saddest part of this episode, and no, I don't mean Missandei. Gendry pledges his love to Arya as the new Lord of Storm's End and wants her to be his lady. But remember, Arya is no lady. She gives him one last kiss, telling him he'll be a wonderful lord. He's shot down harder than Rhaegal, but it's ultimately appropriate for Arya's character. A drunken Jaime interrupts Brienne for... Yes, it's only taken us like 6 seasons, but maybe there's a Brienne baby in the oven who will be the fiercest fighter ever seen in Westeros. And there's nothing that turns on a queen more than talking about her friend-zone boy who died literally a few hours ago. But there's still some unfinished business. Dany believes herself to be queen, but Jon is the rightful heir. He's so enamored with her, he'll refuse all rights to the throne, and Dany gives him an ultimatum. He must swear Bran and Samwell to secrecy in order for her to retain the throne. To me, this scene is the end of Dany. Her lust for power will be the end of her. She believes this truth will be the end of them, but doesn't realize it could be their greatest strength. It's this belief that will likely result in her death at the end of the season unless she changes her way. But this is the line that does it for Dany.
We can. I've just told you how.
It's that kind of bullshit, Dany, that's gonna make you dead. In the war room, Grey Worm and Jon tell that half the Unsullied, Northmen, and Dothraki are gone. Now with the Golden Company in King's Landing, the tides have turned in Cersei's favor. The plan is to surround King's Landing and make the refugees fight against Cersei. Jon and Ser Davos will take the remaining Unsullied, Northern troops, and Dothraki, while Tyrion and a smaller force will travel to White Harbor with the Queen and the dragons. Jaime will remain in Winterfell with his boo Brienne. Something tells me he'll be making his way to King's Landing eventually to take on the Queen. Arya and Sansa tell Jon they don't trust Dany, trying to sway his emotions, but Jon doesn't want to go back on his word with Dany and tell them the truth about his heritage. Instead, he's a little bitch and makes Bran do it, technically not going against his promise to Dany. Jaime knows that Brienne is sworn to protect the Stark girl, hence why he's staying in Winterfell, but this beautiful brother-brother scene is interrupted by Bronn, and honestly this scene pissed me off. Bronn, who has established connections beyond friendship with both of these men, still values money and prestige over his own integrity. He even makes a deal with them and leaves, thinking after holding a crossbow to them that they'll honor it after he's done. Bronn is so idiotic, and this scene is such a slap in the face to Bronn's character arc that I was left dumbfounded. Hey look, it's Arya and the Hound traveling on the road once again. He reiterates that if he gets hurt, she'll just leave him again, and that's love, folks. Tyrion tries to convince Sansa that Dany will be a good queen, and that with Jon in the south, she'll be the true power in the north. But Sansa isn't quite having it. She tells him, what if there is someone else, someone better? Likely referring to Jon being the rightful king, since Bran would have told her the truth several scenes ago. Tormund is bringing the free folk back home mainly because the women here don't agree with him. And can we just take a moment to talk about Ghost? Jon doesn't even get a goodbye with him. This doggo helped kill the White Walkers and doesn't even get a head scratch or a good boy?
Well, I don't agree with that.
But at least Jon gets to say goodbye to Gilly and Sam. And Sam got it in. Whoop whoop! My boy Sam putting a bun in the oven, and there's even a heartfelt scene between the two.
You're the best friend I ever had. You too, Sam.
Aw, and look at these sweethearts. If only they knew what's to come. Tyrion tells Varys that the secret about Jon and Dany is already out. This already puts in plans in Varys' mind as how an eventual shift in power would work. But before this can even happen, they still need to take on Cersei and capture King's Landing. But as we get this beautiful sweeping shot of Dany riding on her dragons, Rhaegal is brutally shot down by Euron and his Iron Fleet. Each ship has giant crossbows which almost take down Dany and Drogon in the process, but Dany knows she's no match and eventually retreats. Euron focuses his powers on the remaining Targaryen fleet, which proves devastating for the Queen and her armies. Varys and Tyrion wash ashore with Grey Worm searching for his love. Unfortunately for Missandei, she's been taken prisoner. With the usurper coming, people flee into King's Landing, fearing her and her dragons will obliterate the countryside. Cersei is actually using the people as a bargaining chip. If Dany is to take over King's Landing, she'll have to risk killing innocent civilians in the process. Furthermore, Cersei tells Euron that their child will eventually rule over the Seven Kingdoms, something that will come into question in the scenes to come. It's here we see that Missandei has been captured and will eventually be used as a bargaining chip as well. Varys echoes the feeling that tens of thousands of civilians will die if Dany attacks King's Landing head-on with Drogon and her troops. But Dany isn't having it. She's here to free the world from tyrants, whatever the cost. Another remark foreshadowing that Dany won't end up on the throne in the end. Varys himself even starts to second-guess Daenerys, stating to Tyrion if he's ever wondered the best person to rule is someone who never wanted to rule in the first place, aka Jon. This talk of treason turns Tyrion off. He believes that Dany and Jon could rule together, but Varys isn't too sure of that. Tyrion will believe in Dany no matter what, and Varys will believe in the realm no matter what. How this will play out will be interesting in the episodes to come. Jaime gets the news that Euron has killed one of Dany's dragons and captured Missandei. It's clear he's fighting between staying with Brienne and continuing his true destiny of finishing off his sister. It's my theory that Jaime will be the one to finally kill Cersei, not the Hound and not Arya. Brienne tells him he's a good man and can't save Cersei, pleading that he stays there with her, but he refuses. He says he's not a good man. All the bad deeds he's done in his life has been for Cersei, and the only way he can redeem himself from that is to kill her. That's why his arc has only one end. Either he kills her or dies trying. Outside the gates of King's Landing, Dany has amassed an army of 100 people? This is her attempt to show the people of King's Landing that she's actually trying to negotiate. Qyburn comes out like the friggin' mouth of Sauron, and it's Hand of the Queen versus Hand of the Queen in an epic battle. Dany demands Cersei's unconditional surrender and release of Missandei, but Cersei wants Daenerys' unconditional surrender, and if she refuses, Missandei will be killed. Tyrion is sick of hearing Qyburn and engages directly with Cersei, pleading for the sake of her child to give up. And this will have consequences for Euron, who believes he's the only one who knows about the kid. Whose baby is it? That is, if there is a kid at all. Cersei isn't having it and asks Missandei what her last words are, to which she replies, Dracarys, burn it all down. And with that, she's killed by the mountain, making both Clegane and Grey Worm fierce competitors on who's going to take down the mountain. A woman who spent most of her life in chains now dies in them. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and make sure to like and subscribe because I'll be coming out with an episode 5 prediction video and other Game of Thrones theories. You can follow me on Twitter at ThinkStoryYT, and remember, Daddy loves you very much.